Check. 1, 2, 3.
The D. Brief. This is the D Brief.
Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's
arts and entertainment scene.
This is the D
Brief.
Hello and welcome to the Detroit Podcast for concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more. It is Tuesday, January 29th, and I am your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
And I'm Becky Scarcello.
And here's how it works. I am the new guy to the Detroit area. Haven't been here that long. Still figuring it out.
And I'm helping you figure that all out because I've been here my whole life.
You've been a big help. I've learned a lot from you.
Oh, good.
I'm not going to be
honest. Makes me proud.
Look, here's what's happening on today's show. First of all, we're going to talk about the woman, if you can even use that term, who won the U.S. Figure Skating Championships that have been happening here in Detroit.
We're also going to talk about Movement. The lineup has been released.
You're excited.
I am. Yep, some good ones.
Hey, we interviewed Mark Evan Jackson for the podcast last week, but he was out of town. He basically Skyped in to do that interview. I got the chance to meet him. This guy was fantastic.
You had a big smile on.
I did. I was, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of The Good Place,
so nice.
The TV show he's on. So I'll tell you a little bit about that.
And I want to let you know to listen in on Thursday. Our interview will be with Alex Trajano. He is a WDET employee and production guy, and among many other things on his resume, he hosts The Moth.
Yeah, the Moth storytelling events that they do here in Detroit are amazing.
Yeah.
I've been to them. They're a lot of fun. Look, don't forget, we're going to talk about a lot of things in this show, and if you want links to everything that we talk about, the easiest way to get them is to go to our website, thedebriefdetroit.com, and just sign up for the email list, because we will send you an email list, an email every week with everything that's going on around town with all the links in there.
Yep, and you can also just text the word Detroit to 444-999 right from your phone and sign up that way.
All right, in just a second, we're going to meet our guest host for today's episode.
Welcome to the D.
Brief. Brief.
All right, but before we get there, we have a big announcement, because we've been doing this podcast for a little over a year now.
Yep.
Right? We've had a ton of people from the Detroit arts and entertainment scene on the show.
So many.
And every single time, they all say the same thing.
I wanted to do a podcast.
Right. All of them. It's been like universal.
But they just want to provide the content because it's a big learning curve.
Look, you hadn't podcasted before you did this. It's a big project,
yeah,
right?
All the equipment you need and all the services you have to use to get it up online all the places, the editing, you name it. So it's not just if you're something passionate to talk about, there's a whole lot more that goes into it.
Yeah. So we decided to do something here at the Debrief. We actually decided to launch MichiganPodcastProductions.com.
We started a new company.
Yeah, and our goal is to help other arts and entertainment organizations basically produce a podcast.
Yeah, to connect with their audiences in an audio format.
Absolutely. So if you are any kind of artist or entertainer who maybe you engage with your fans every so often, you are a band who plays every once in a while and your fans come out and see you. You're a museum that people go visit maybe once a year. You're a restaurant that people go to periodically, but it's not like they go every day, and you want a way to stay in touch with those fans. A podcast is a great way to do it. We're going to help you produce that podcast. So you can get all the details over at our brand new website for that.
Yeah, it's shiny new.
It's pretty, right?
It is pretty. It looks slick. I like it.
It's MichiganPodcastProductions.com. That's MichiganPodcastProductions.com. If you run an arts and entertainment organization, been thinking about launching a podcast, we can make it happen.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D.
Brief.
All right, let's meet our guest host for today's episode. This is a guy that we have talked about a lot on
Many
this
times,
podcast.
yes.
Because I'm a big fan. I really am. I have seen this guy perform the last 2 years for the Valentine's Day show at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. I'm disappointed he's not performing Valentine's Day.
Oh, you're going to have to find a new date option. Maybe the Dirty Show.
Which is, well, maybe.
Maybe.
The problem is I'm not very good at thinking up what the things to do. So,
I'll help you.
Yeah, we need some help. You may have also seen him on NBC's Last Comic Standing. He's been on Comedy Central's This Is Not Happening. He is the co-host of the Anthony Cumia Show. Please welcome stand-up comedian Dave Landau.
Thank you.
Hey, you have a voice for radio.
Hey, look at that.
How's it been? I mean, being a podcaster, being on a live streaming radio show?
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's really a dream come true. I was a huge fan of Anthony for years on the Opie and Anthony show when I was touring around the country. And then I was a huge fan of Artie Lang from the Stern days. So I used to listen to like Artie and Stern and then Dominski and Doyle in the afternoons when I was like an industrial painter. So it was really cool to finally be asked to be on a show with Anthony and Artie It was pretty amazing.
Oh,
kind of a
that's-
dream come true.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And you're on Monday through Thursdays, so
Yes.
4 days a week.
4 days a week, 4 to 6 p.m. at Compound Media.
And you guys record in New York City, so you're not here in the Detroit area
Right.
all that often.
I live in Harlem, which is a very lateral move. And, a lot of things like Detroit, which is what I liked about it.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so it's fun.
Very cool. Can we talk about your This Is Not Happening that happened on Comedy Central last
Sure.
year? Tell us a little bit about the show, the concept, how they reached out to you, and
Originally, Ari Shafir did the show, and the concept is just comedians telling absolutely true stories, no BS, and nothing fake, nothing at all, just true stories, storytelling on Comedy Central. And he's had people come on for years and years and years, and finally I found out that the producer was actually a guy who booked me on Comedy Central's Live at Gotham back in like 2007. So I sent him several stories, and they both liked all of them, but they liked one called The Penis Master. Can I say that?
you
And
can say
another
that.
one.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then another one about when I was arrested when I was 16 and locked in a mental hospital. So
Oh,
we
wow.
combined the stories, and I kind of did 2 stories on the show.
nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've
Absolutely
I've
true.
seen you do this. I mean, I don't want to give anything away about it because I know that this is a story that you'll tell on stage, but it's an amazing story.
Thank you. Yeah, anybody can
okay.
check it out on YouTube or on
Sure.
ComedyCentral.com under my name. It was nice to do because I failed so bad at life for a long time, and after a lot of arrests and being an alcoholic and a drug addict, it was nice to have it pay off.
This is something that you talk about a lot in your act. Is
Yeah.
the arrests and the addictions over the years, and
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that and how that led into comedy and.
Well, my dad got real sick when I was 13 with brain cancer, and he ended up passing away. And he would go to like Boston to live there for a while to get surgery at Harvard Hospital, and I was being cared for by like some of my aunts, and my one aunt killed herself while like watching me. So I just turned to like drugs and alcohol to take away the pain from everything.
Yeah.
And it was fun a lot of the time, to be honest with you.
Sure.
But I mean, I pretty much didn't go to school. I went to high school for 5 years. Which they put me in a community school program, which is where they take the bad kids from both schools and make the breakfast club in a room.
Right.
And you just hang out for 4 hours instead of bother other students. So I was just kind of a mess. And right when I turned 19, I joined the Second City because I always loved being funny. I always loved cracking people up in class. I always loved comedy, Saturday Night Live. So I joined the Second City right out of that.
Doing improv here in Detroit.
Doing improv, yeah.
So you started doing improv even before stand-up.
Yes. Yeah, I did stand up for 2 years, and I'm not a great actor, so it was easy for me to not do that. Like, I'm good at improv, but I'm not great at, like, character work or any of that stuff, so stand up was a much better calling for me.
You know, a lot of people who have gone on to be famous have come out of Second City here in Detroit.
Yeah.
Anybody that you
Definitely.
worked with at the...
Yeah, Sam Richardson on Detroiters, we used to do a show at the Village Idiot in Detroit where it was... sorry, I'm stammering. It was a long time ago, but we were members only improv, and we were so cheesy. We all wore members only jackets.
I was going to ask, is that
Yeah.
after the jacket?
And this was before they were repopularized. You had to go and find them.
Oh, wow.
this
the
took-
Salvation Army or
Yes,
whatever.
that took
yeah.
hustle.
Yeah.
And what we did was it was $5 for the improv show, $5 all you can drink, Coors Light. And then that would sell a bunch of shots, and they were happy, we were happy, and you could drink underage because it was Detroit then, and
Sure.
no one cared.
Right.
So it was very popular for a long, long time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really cool thing.
So, do you think that you would be where you are today if it weren't for what you kind of went through? I mean, did you really need this outlet to kind of get away from the pain that you were experiencing?
I think I would have gone into something in the entertainment field because
Okay.
I was big into film and I was big into television and stuff before that.
Okay.
But no, the storytelling and recovery speaking and other stuff like that, and even being on this show, no, I would not have all the fun stories that I have thanks to my crippling alcoholism and addiction.
Yeah, but I mean, you could have just wallowed in that, and
Yeah,
you
for a
turned
long
it
time.
around, and
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah,
That's
it took
inspiring.
13 arrests for me to finally go. I think it's me.
What happened in the 13th?
I know. Yeah, what was it? What was the light bulb moment?
I was arrested as an adult.
Oh.
Everything else I had been under the age of 21.
Okay.
And they're really not going to put a teenage kid into Wayne County lockup. Like they'll give you probation, they'll charge you a bunch of money, but they're just at the time they're not going to put a white kid into Wayne County. It's just not going to happen. Really, you'd have to kill somebody. Like I had a few friends that went and they killed somebody, so it's like it was really where I got very lucky for a long time.
Wow.
And then as an adult, I was like, oh,
It matters now.
big time.
Yeah. Consequence.
And it cost me about $25,000. And after that, I just realized that I needed to stop. And I wanted to stop since I was like 17, but now I was 27. I had been using all those years.
Wow.
Wow. And you started comedy when you were how old?
19.
Yeah, the Improv, Second
And,
City.
Yeah, stand-up, I was 20, 21 maybe.
And you were starting here in Detroit.
Yeah, I started Second City, and then I lived in Detroit the entire time, except when I briefly lived in L.A.
So what was the stand-up scene
That's
in
what I was gonna
Detroit
ask,
like
yeah.
back then?
It was great. We had a lot of camaraderie, a lot of great people at the time. We had Mike Stanley, Mike Costa, who's on The Daily Show, Brent Sullivan, who's been on Conan, Matt McClowery, who's an amazing comic,
Sure.
Marty Butler. We had a ton of great comics that we all had each other's backs, watched each other's do stand-up, helped each other out. It was amazing, honestly. We had so many comedy clubs here then, too.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
many have gone away.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
Joey's was here back then.
We had two Joeys, one in Dearborn. We had Chaplin's Comedy Club,
Yeah.
Holly Hotel, Shooters. I don't know if it's still there. It's not. Bee's Comedy Kitchen, Coco's House of Comedy, Mark Ridley's. Like you could get Bart's, Club Bart. Like there were so many places you could do stand-up comedy. It was insane. It was such a great place to start.
How do you like New York? This is your first year living in New York now?
Yeah,
Full year.
Yeah, it is what it is. I don't necessarily like it. It's not that I don't like. I like the culture, the art. It's just an overcrowded cesspool where it's just a little difficult.
Are you talking
to
about the
navigate.
comedy scene, or are you just talking about the city in general?
Oh, well, the entertainment industry is also an overcrowded cesspool. But yes, the city itself is
Kind of overwhelming, always overstimulating, or
Yeah. It's just a lot, you know. I mean, I like the city. I like a lot of it. But I mean, specifically Times Square where I work, I don't like that area.
Oh, my gosh,
But
yeah.
you get into like Brooklyn and like a lot of the other boroughs or whatever, you know, it's really nice.
So you're saying you prefer 13 and Telegraph, say, to Times Square?
Yes, I actually do. If I had
We're
a
very
choice.
relaxed and calm here. It's not overwhelming.
Where do you want to wind up? I mean, as a comedian, do you need to wind up either in L.A. or New York, or would
No.
you ever come back to Detroit?
I would absolutely come back to Detroit.
You would?
Really?
Okay. So
I've
it's
been-
mainly for the radio show?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I lived in L.A., and actually that's where I wrote a movie that
I watched this film last night. This is The King, right?
Yeah, I had interviewed a bunch to be on In Living Color, which they were bringing back.
Oh, yeah. I
And-
love that show.
Yeah, and I would be a writer on it. And then they canceled it, and that was kind of a bummer.
For
so
sure.
my friend who worked for Fox was like, well, you should write a script. I could probably get it through since that didn't work out. And I wrote it, and they offered me some money, but it wasn't worth anything. It was basically like a freebie, get a Writers Guild card or whatever. And I actually liked what I wrote, so I moved back to Detroit and made it. But other than that, I've never lived outside of Detroit. I think right now the world is so small with the internet that there's no reason you have to be on a coast. It doesn't make any sense, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
That's a good
I mean,
point.
unless you like Misery Loves Company, and that's a great reason to go out to L.A.
Yeah.
Well, when are you back in the area so that people can go see your live show?
Yes.
I will be in Franklin Inn in Bad Axe, Michigan on February 2nd, and May 23rd through 25th I'll be at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Royal Oak.
Oh, very cool. And people can check out the show, the Anthony Cumia Show. How do they get that?
Compound Media, they can go to compoundmedia.com, or they can download the Compound Media app and then use the code Compound20, capital C, Compound20, and then that'll get them 20% off the subscription.
Awesome. Well, look, Dave, we're glad you're here.
Thank
we'll
you.
talk more about the movie,
Yeah,
I think, later
absolutely.
on.
We'll get
Yeah.
into that and some of the other stuff you're doing, because I'll bet you're writing even now as we speak.
I'm sure.
I am, yes.
So we'll talk about that. So hang out and have a good time.
Cool.
The Deep Brief.
All right, Becky, let's talk about what's going on in music news.
Sure. So always in the dead of winter, I'm thinking about warmer days, and Memorial Weekend is big around here with the Movement Festival. They just announced the lineup. So, of course, this is the weekend that they do electronic and techno music.
This is your jam.
Well, no, I wouldn't say in general, but I like live music of any sort. And I especially like when there's a mix of local musicians and, national and international.
I have not been to Movement yet. This is one of the things that's on my to-do list.
You should go. I mean, and people think it's all like the dun, 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 that same thing over and over. But I would say in recent years especially, there's been a nice mix of some live music too.
Have you been, Dave?
I have in my drug days when it was a lot of the dun, dun, dun. Yeah, it's I haven't been to it recently, so I can't comment on it. But yeah, one time I think it was just built for ecstasy. And yeah, they had the Ford Focus, Detroit Techno Focus. They actually designed a car for ecstasy users, but they pretended that it wasn't about that at all. But
it was.
How do you do that? What is it, like a disco ball comes down?
No, it had special speakers that were really bass and then bassy, and then it had very I don't know how we would put it, fluorescent colors, maybe?
Yeah, like the neon sort of.
Yeah, the bottom glowed, lights on the bottom of the car.
See, I remember the hamsters or the gerbils years later, but I think that was Kia.
Kia was definitely going for a little bit of the ecstasy.
Yes,
when you have rolling hamsters.
I mean,
that was part of it.
Especially at night, it's definitely still a bit of a drug-induced situation and vibe. And a lot of glow sticks, a lot of wild outfits. It's great people watching. But I don't know. I still like... So the lineup this year, Gucci Mane... Grizz, who's from Detroit, Carl Craig, Richie Houghton, Disclosure's coming, plenty of locals like Danny Brown, DJ Godfather, Sheefy McFly, Shigeto, who's one of my favorites. Now he plays the drums live, plus has all these beats and other members of the band. So to me, it's more of a live music experience on some of the stages. There's of course all the DJs as well.
Well, yeah, and DJ Godfather's been around for a long time.
Yeah. So anyway,
I mean, it's a music festival.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone's going to be on drugs. That's how music festivals.
It's kind of how it is. Yeah.
I went to Bonnaroo. It was the same thing.
Oh yeah, and Coachella.
And I was. Oh, that was fun.
See, because of all my years in radio, every time I went to a concert, I was always working.
Okay.
Like we were always, doing backstage broadcasts or things like that. And so, I mean, I hate to say it, I got to the point where
you were tired of it, like you didn't.
Yeah, like going to a concert felt like homework. Plus, I'm 5'4", so
I'm 5'5",
and you're
right. You feel that.
Well, and you're men. Like I'm 5'4", but I'm a woman, so I can get up front. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're 5'4" and men.
Yeah, it's different.
Yes, it's different.
But, yeah, I recommend it. Last year was super duper hot, like 95 degrees hot. So
well, that doesn't sound bad right now. So.
Well, that's true.
That's when you see people with glowing bracelets carried off on stretchers, though, and that makes
There's
fine
a lot
people
of
watching.
Dehydration. Yes.
Yeah, make sure if you're going to
drink some water,
MDMA.
not just Red Bull.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take ecstasy, hydrate.
Tip from a pro.
Yeah, balance it out.
Dude, I've opened a lot of shows for bands, so I know what you mean for being like the guy there who just like for that audience doesn't want to see you.
No.
I had to walk out. The Doobie Brothers crowd was pretty good.
Really?
Yeah, the Donna Summers crowd hated my guts.
Really?
Oh, they were the worst ever. Huh. They wanted to see Donna Summers.
Yeah, you're not really on the same...
I have never heard...
I'm not 80 and white.
I have never heard a comedian say that
Donna
it was a good show after opening for a band.
No, she's not, but her fans are. It's a disco.
Oh, that's true.
Why is that something that they keep trying? Because I always hear comedians say how difficult that is to open for a band.
Dude, it worked at the Copacabana in like the 50s. And
so they're still holding on to it.
Yeah, they're like, I know it'll work tonight. And then you walk out and it's like, don't say anything bad. It's all children. And you're like, all right.
Oh, fun.
Well, Donna Summer, like she had, I know she's dead, but I'll just say, she was very much a diva, if you can believe that or not.
No, I do believe that.
And I came out and I'm like, oh, there's no keys on that piano. I guess there'll be a lot of lip syncing tonight. And it was, the audience hated me. And I made some comment about her doing coke with Frank Stallone off of a certain body part at Studio 54 that got booed. And because they just hated me anyway. And then she came out and was just like, I chipped my tooth today, and I went to a dentist, and I thought, this dentist works hard for the money. Here we go. And I was like, this is garbage. And then she lip synced the whole show.
Wow.
And it was just the worst. I was just in the back like, aren't any of you bothered by the fact that this whole thing is pretend?
Right. You know what? They wanted to just hear her albums anyways. That's what they came for.
They did, yeah.
They didn't want any kind of mix-up. So.
Yeah, it was awful on my part. The Doobie Brothers fans were kind of cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
But opening for a big name is fun if it's a comic. If it's a band, it's just not going to work out for you.
Okay. Well, I'll put that on my note to do. Never do that. I won't do that.
Yeah,
I won't sign
never.
up for that. So I have a fun local musician story. So I was at the House of Vans on Thursday night with Mahogany Jones, my friend of the pod.
Local rapper
and music ambassador and just all around amazing person. And she knows everyone. Plus she's very tall and striking. So we go in a House of Vans. We go to see Thundercat particularly. We wanted to go catch his set. And every two people, someone knows her. Mahogany, so hugs and introductions and all this. So she's introducing me to all these different people. And one guy I actually had a few minutes to chat with. His name's Benjamin Earl Turner. And nicest smile. We actually started talking about the Bay Area because that's where he's from. My sister lives there.
That's where I'm from.
That's where you're from. And I said my co-host, and Mahogany had said, oh, she has a podcast, blah, blah, blah. Really nice conversation. And Mahogany's like, but he has this EP out. It's kind of an unsavory name. It's Frick, but not Frick. And I was like, well, that keeps it simple. And so we were kind of laughing about that. I go home and I look at the Metro Times and he's in there for this video. So you guys got to see this video. It's his first single off this EP is called Ja Rule. But actually has nothing to do with the rapper Ja Rule. But it's brilliant marketing because if you go to YouTube and Google Ja Rule, it comes up as one of the first 5 results.
Well played, yes.
Brilliant, right?
The other 4 are the Fire Festival, right?
Exactly. So, but the video is the big part of this story. So he rides nude in like a frothing hot tub in the the back of a Mercedes pickup truck through the streets of Detroit. And they managed to squeeze in 40 different sites in the city that like you would recognize, liquor stores and all sorts of spots. He's coming out of manhole covers. He's drinking gallons of orange juice. It has all these references to Super Mario Brothers. It's just like nuts.
That's awesome.
It's one of these videos you have to watch like 10 times to kind of pick up all the references. So he was just the sweetest, most humble guy. And then I'm like, this is brilliant. So I just had to share with you guys that you gotta. We'll put a link to it in our show notes.
Driving around Detroit, isn't that the plot of your movie there? The King?
It is, essentially.
Basically, driving and hitting all the spots.
We're getting it's basically loosely based on my life, and it's about a group of kids who want to go and get drugs and beer the first night that a kid gets a car, and it all hell breaks loose.
And it's called The King because it is the
King of Detroit. Right?
No, it's called it's now The King of Detroit. Yes, on Amazon. Yeah, it's called The King because his dad thinks Le Baron is French for king.
Oh. And he has a LeBaron.
Yes, and we had to pick the perfect 90s car that was garbage that everybody drove.
Oh, yeah.
Because they loved it. Those convertibles, they were just trash. We blew, the clutch on it like 7 times. It was a large part of our expense to make a movie for $7,000.
So you made this a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I shot in 2013, wrote it in 2012.
And then what happened?
14.
What happened to it?
It sat on a shelf. I sold it on the road. It built a little bit of a cult following.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and then after that, Amazon reached out.
That is awesome.
Somebody in Roger Corman's group, Old Mill Pictures Entertainment, saw it online, was like, why doesn't this have distribution? And I was like, well, I don't think it necessarily fits the Hollywood agenda for what they want for comedy.
Okay.
I was like, well, we love it, and they bought it and are now distributing it.
So now you can see it on Amazon. The King of Detroit.
King of Detroit,
which is easier because we bought a copy of it at one of these Valentine's Day shows that we saw you at.
Yes.
And
you had the DVD.
I have the DVD and didn't realize, until we went to go play it, that we don't actually have a DVD player.
I get that complaint a lot when I sell it at shows.
Kind of passe.
So like maybe on an SD card or a USB stick.
A little flash drive.
Something like that.
And it's not like a record, or somebody's going to hang it on their wall or something, So,
although I bet somebody has.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're eerie people, but I hope so. Yeah.
Okay, so you got to go watch The King of Detroit, and then I'm telling you, look up Benjamin Earl Turner, brilliant guy. He's going places. So, did you know Orchestra Hall, one of our gems in Detroit, it's almost 100 years old.
I did not.
Yeah,
Wow.
isn't that crazy? So it's their 100th year anniversary, and so the 2019-2020 classical season has just been announced, and they're actually going to kick it off with the first program that was ever played on the stage in 1919. So that's going to be the first. So, classical never goes out of style.
Oh, God.
And, right? So it's going to be Mozart, Bach, and Beethoven selections from them. And other pieces throughout the season will be from that original those original years, 1919 to 1920. But there's going to be a highlight of the centennial is a brass fanfare that's commissioned from one of the current members of the symphony, a trumpeter named William Lucas. And he, along with his wife, Kristen Custer, composed a special piece. The 250th anniversary of Beethoven's birth is also coming up. So this is all just kind of just crazier for the symphony. So look that up, get some tickets, especially like the season tickets are really reasonable to catch a lot of shows.
Our friend Tim Kiska, who hosts the Detroit History podcast, did an episode on the orchestra. And I guess back when this started, orchestras were conductors were the rock stars of their day.
Oh, definitely.
And they were big and they were famous. And there's a connection to Mark Twain through marriage. And he's got a whole episode
check that out.
On the DSO and the history.
It's pretty
of
fascinating.
It.
And it's one of the most acoustically perfect places in the country for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys knew, in a 10-year period from 1941 to 51, the DSO was actually kicked out of Orchestra Hall, and it became the Paradise Theater. So it was like a center for jazz and bebop and blues music.
I'd rather see that. No offense, DSO.
No. So they did start.
Or the rock star conductors.
They did start
Got
a Paradise.
all the ladies.
Right, they did.
A lot of syphilis
The
in those days. Anyway, sorry.
Hopefully not in these days. Hopefully
Back then, though.
Yeah,
Oof.
for sure, rampant.
A lot of it.
So
Many-
the
sorry.
Paradise Jazz Series is the 20th anniversary of that. So to your point, you can go see the jazz too. They're going to do a whole Duke Ellington thing and lots of celebrating around the jazz as well.
I like that.
So that'll be more your bag.
I would definitely go watch
Yeah.
a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Of all the venues you've played here in town, first of all, what's your favorite? And is there one that you would want to perform at?
No, I've been lucky enough where I've actually done every one of them. I would say Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle is my favorite, but it was really cool the first time I did Pine Knob and some of those outdoor theaters at Meadowbrook and the Fillmore I did with Chappelle and
Oh, nice.
So there's and I've done arenas with him too, so it was cool to do just 2,000 people,
Right.
Because
A small crowd.
Yeah, because I've done it with him with 7,000, and it's very hard to be intimate with an audience when there's.
So
I would
you actually
imagine.
prefer a smaller crowd?
I prefer. Well, yeah and no. I mean, I don't think 300 to 400 is that small.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd say a couple hundred, maybe 100, where you can really get intimate and talk about your life and be honest. And I'd rather have 100 fans of comedy than 500 people who just want to randomly see a show.
Right.
I'd rather have really true fans of the art. I did a show last week where everybody was sober, and it was for a recovery house to help drug addicted teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when I just go and I'll do those things. And it was amazing to perform for a sober audience that was just there to see comedy because they pay attention.
Right.
It's like going to a movie. It's not just hammered people who look at you like a clown.
Yeah.
So it's like people that are into the art form, and that's the greatest feeling.
You can really connect to the audience in a different way.
Is there such a
Yeah.
thing as a sober heckler?
I've never had it. I'm sure there is. A guy.
It's a rare species.
We call them an ass.
Yeah.
It's
That's just a jerk.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a sober heckler. I've had many a drunk ones.
Yeah.
Many.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Taken out many of them who had never seemed to take responsibility for their actions.
No.
Okay, well, how about this? The DSO also is performing with Nas.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I bought tickets to this. It's coming up March 5th, and they're on sale now. The last time I checked, there was just a small handful. So I wanted to mention that too if you want to get tickets to go see Nas with the DSO.
I do.
March
'Cause
5th.
Illmatic is about the best hip hop album to ever come out.
Agreed. A couple other concert picks for this week coming up. Wednesday, the 30th, Sax Appeal, our friend of the pod. He was a previous co-host.
I like the name.
Yeah. He's going to be at Aretha's Jazz Cafe there in Music Hall for 2 shows on Wednesday, 7 and 8:30.
I immediately thought of a rusty trombone joke when you said that, by the way. And then I held it in, and now I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
I just sorry.
that was it.
I feel like I'm
that was
interrupting.
it.
I apologize.
That's just we're just
think
go with
it'd
the innuendo.
I just feel like he should work with a guy named Rusty Trombone.
I think it's one of his dreams.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think we just, if you could come up with any brass instrument.
So anybody out there, if you have the hookup. Friday, February 1st, Scott Bradley's Postmodern Jukebox is going to be at the Fillmore. And how about this? Saturday, February 2nd, Dennis DeYoung at MGM.
Nice.
Sticks.
Oh, okay.
Hello?
I did not know.
Come
honestly.
sail away, Mr. Roboto.
Is he going to be doing solo material though?
I think so. At
Well,
the
that's-
MGM Grand. So, but I would assume he'd break out
gotta
some
do
hits.
He's got to own some sticks.
Yeah.
Coming up
Sorry.
in just a few minutes, we've got a brand new documentary that's about a Detroit postman, and we'll tell you all about it.
Welcome to the D.
Brave.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about an event that's just wrapping up or has just wrapped up here in Detroit. That is the U.S. Figure Skating Championships that took place at the Little Caesars Arena, mostly because of the winner, which I thought was amazing. Her name is Alyssa Liu. She is the new national women's champion in U.S. figure skating. But what's really amazing about her, she's only 13.
Yeah, young lady.
You've seen the pictures, right?
She's adorable.
She is.
Yeah,
but
best smile.
She's only 13.
She's young, yeah.
She's so young that she is too young to compete internationally in the senior competitions. She can't even compete in the World Championships until 2022, and she can't even compete in the Junior World Championships this year. She's just too young. She started when she was 5.5, but on Thursday she became the first woman to nail a triple axel in the short program, and then in her Friday finale, she nailed 2 of them, and everybody else wiped out on her.
Yeah, a lot of falls this competition.
Yeah. 4'7". I don't know if she likes going to concerts either.
I don't know.
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not.
They had to lift her up to the podium.
Oh,
That's nice. I'm
Yeah.
barely taller than a 13-year-old girl. Makes me feel nice.
But I mean, she's 13.
Yeah, that's
what were you doing at
amazing.
13?
Counting my pubes.
Yeah, right.
I don't just still collecting stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing anything like this.
Being awkward, not competing in anything like
Very
that.
awkward.
She better hope there's not a junior Tanya Harding out there getting
know.
ready to take her out.
Yeah.
Where were
Yikes.
you? We were asking that last week. Where were you when that happened? Do you remember that?
I want to say I was in middle school or
It's
like late elementary
1994.
school.
1994.
Yeah, it was in middle school because it was the same year the OJ verdict, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they announced it when we were all in middle school.
Wow.
And I remember those. And I have a job in radio because OJ killed his wife. So shout out.
Wait, how does that work?
What?
OJ Simpson kills his wife, right?
Yes.
And the Ron Goldman,
Yes.
the waiter.
Who brought the glasses back? Yeah.
Anthony Cumia writes a song about it, even though he's just like a knocking 10 at that time in his life.
Yeah.
The radio likes it, so they bring him in for an interview to start doing the show. He's such a hit on the show, it becomes the Opie and Anthony show.
This would have been at
Later
WAAF in Boston,
in
right?
Boston.
Yeah.
Leaded
Worcester,
to
really.
the Anthony Cumia Show with Dave Landau. So the butterfly effect of O.J. Simpson murdering his wife
Wow.
got me a pretty good job. So, I mean, I am not saying what he did was right,
Well,
but I'm not going to say I don't appreciate it.
oh my gosh.
Just try.
Well,
Too
there
much?
you go.
Let's-
No.
Look, I'm not saying
Yeah.
you should murder your wife.
I would hope not.
No, I think
Yeah.
that's bad.
That
Right.
is- we can
I'm-
all agree on that.
My wife is still breathing, as far as I know,
Okay, good.
and that's important.
Like, can you just text her just to be sure?
Don't worry, she's texting me every 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, just to make sure that you're in a place you're supposed to be.
Yeah, we're trying to find this Paw Patrol thing, so she's comparing prices. Because you have to get the hit toy of the season for our child for his 4th birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, so now a guy ripped me off on eBay, basically. Apparently it's not $60, it's $30.
Oh, that's down and dirty.
I got had.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd pay the $60 just to stop talking about it.
Okay. Let's do.
No, not. I didn't mean you guys.
You could
I
kill
just
him,
went
and
with
then
my
maybe
way. I know.
you kick off somebody's radio career. You never know.
Yeah, you
So-
see what I'm saying?
All right, we'll do shout-outs in just a moment here.
Welcome to the
Brave, Detroit's
arts and entertainment scene.
Becky, let's talk about some of the other things that are happening around town.
Okay, let's. Now, do you guys know your mail carrier, your mailman or mail lady? Personally, like, do you chat with them?
When I grew up, I did. Now it's somebody new every day, or they're a shapeshifter.
Oh, okay.
New person.
This is in New York. Do you even see your mailman
Yeah, I
in
mean,
New
I
York?
was, yeah.
Oh, no, not in New York. Yeah, I was thinking in Canton. No, in New York, they're very loud, and they yell, "Come get your stuff." But they don't say stuff.
Okay.
I haven't
Wow,
had.
it's rough in New York.
Yeah, they're very impolite. It's not a professional.
We have a male woman, and
Weird.
well, I haven't.
No, I'm kidding.
Post lady.
Post lady.
Yeah.
I don't know whatever
Male
the term
woman
is.
just sounds funny
Right.
when you
It
say it.
does.
It sounds
Male
very,
woman.
it sounds very
Gender-
un-PC.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It sounds like a form of porn.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a she-male lady.
She mail lady.
We had a male woman growing up. Yeah, and we knew her by first name, Christmas cards and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know mine yet. I gotta meet her.
I know our postman. Well, so there's a really cool mail carrier in Detroit that is now the star of a documentary. So it's called Detroit 48202, Conversations Along a Postal Route. So that area is basically the dead center of the city. Okay, so just north is Highland Park. Just to the east would be Hamtramck. It includes the North End, Milwaukee Junction, and parts of Midtown. And this Wendell Watkins, African-American guy, he's retired now and lives in California, but he had the same route in that zip code for 30 years. And he just along the way collected people's stories. It was all just like oral history and got to know them. And one of his Cass Tech classmates from back in the day, Pam Sporn, is a filmmaker who lives in New York. And she came back to the city where she grew up in 2009. Is like, what the heck happened here? So much had changed. And she grew up in the 60s and 70s when, it was pretty stable neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So she came back and was like, this is a mess. Like, and she really wanted to understand why. And she's like, I knew it wasn't the residents' fault. I knew it wasn't the people's fault, but all this stuff is boarded up. Things are crumbling. So she reached back out to her old friend Wendell that went to school with her and said, can you help me with this story? And so basically this documentary is him and all the residents, his regular, customers on his route talking about what happened over the years. And it's already getting all this festival attention. It's going to be in the Freep Film Festival in Chicago. And it airs Tuesday, which is tomorrow, as we record this, on the PBS World Channel at 8 p.m. But then you'll be able to see it other places, too. If you go to griddoproductions.com, you can see where it's all aired. You can even purchase screenings of it to show at schools and stuff. And I think the whole idea is, history can be really healing, right? Like, the people that live there or kids growing up there, you don't want them to think that it's their fault. I mean, this is years of history and decline and now revitalization happening. And so I think it's pretty important to learn the whys and the wherefores, that you're just a person in place.
Are you at that point yet? I mean, I don't know how often you're coming back here to Detroit, but when you come back, are you starting to see big changes? Or
Yeah, I mean, pretty often. I mean, when I started going downtown, it was a lot for like raves and parties and yeah, much different reasons.
Kind of underground stuff.
But
yeah.
I mean, it was all the way up to, sorry, I'm popping, all the way up to like even Detroit, the Second City and the Fox. Like, there was nothing good around there.
No.
Right.
Even when I was 19 at the Second City, you could walk to like a seedy strip club a block away. And it was a really bad area for the longest time that I remember. So even seeing downtown how it looks now is just surreal.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I've worked downtown since the early 90s, and it was like, it used to just be get out of work at 5, and maybe there was 3 or 4 places that you might go to, but otherwise it was out. Like, just go.
Yeah, I worked at
home.
London Luggage right off of
Sure.
Yeah, for years actually,
Yeah.
right off of I-94 in Woodward.
Yeah.
And even that part when I worked there was really bad. Like, I just remember, we had a lot of problems with like homeless people coming in and trying to grab the luggage, or people would shoot at the store at night. So we had bulletproof glass, and we had to be closed at 5 for insurance reasons.
Wow.
And now it's like all built up and nice right there. And it's pretty crazy because people look at it like, oh, it was always nice, it was part of the college. It wasn't.
No. Yeah. So I just think this is a fascinating story, kind of seeing Detroit's rise, fall, and then subsequent, beginning of revitalization. And what we talk about a lot here on the show, that revitalization isn't touching everybody. I
don't think people realize what I love. What I love about Detroit is it really is a story that no other city has. So many people move from the different parts of the world to be part of the auto company. And then eventually that goes down or changes in places. Flint gets destroyed. Crime comes in. Crack was humongous here. I mean, if you look at the 80s.
Huge epidemic.
Huge epidemic. And then also a huge rise of organized crime as a result of it. Like, there's so many, like Maserati Rick. And I was happy that, or Maserati Mike, was it?
Yeah, and White Boy Rick.
White Boy Rick. And I was glad they finally made a movie about that story.
Yes.
I'm sure it's embellished, but,
It didn't do so hot, but yeah.
I liked it.
There's a good podcast about it, though.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's actually better.
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah. I really like that story, though. And I think Detroit has this really rich history of all people from all different areas. It's why when you go to, like, Taylor, you can see Confederate flags because Southerners came up.
Oh, yeah.
To, like, go to that point. And then it's at the same place of Detroit. It's very weird. Like, there's really nowhere on earth that I've been to, at least in America, that's anywhere like Detroit. So to hear all these people's stories, it's a wonderfully fascinating idea for a film.
Yeah,
I love the idea too of the vantage point of a postal worker.
Oh, exactly.
Just going from place to place.
Exactly. And he had a quote that I really liked. He said, "You don't realize how messed up things are around here until you walk with someone who isn't from here."
Huh.
Because he was leading around the film crew and everything, and like, oh man, this is pretty, like, here's a wall that they built to separate white people from black people in this neighborhood. Here's where this project was, and what, how they planned to have people where they wanted them to be. And he's like, wow, it's really messed up. People should know this.
Even going to like a Lions game, and I remember you could smoke, you'd look out and see nothing but project housing. And now that's changed.
Oh.
And I'll bring people, like I remember I brought Billy Gardell, not to be name dropping, from Mike and Molly, and we were playing the Castle. We went downtown to Greektown for lunch, but on the way there, I just thought I'd drive through like the Heidelberg Projects.
Yeah.
And he's just like, where are you taking me? I have a family. It's like, what is this? And it's just fun to do.
And you're kind of like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring my friends to Indian Village, and I'll be like, look. Then we'll cross the street, and I'll be like, gotcha.
Yeah. I know.
When I got taken, my girlfriend took me to the Quonset hut for Sweetest Day one year, and I was freaked out about where are we going?
Yeah, Well, so many like the little grocery stores you see in a lot of those neighborhoods, you would just walk in the 90s and be like, 1 dime bag, please. You just walk in and it'd be like, a can of Bush beans, 6 diapers. Like, clearly they're not a store. It's not even a well done front.
No.
And it was it's always amazing. Like, there's just no other city that I've ever seen that has existed like this.
Yeah, I haven't either. I mean, I've moved a
crazy.
lot, and I've never seen anything like this.
All right, how about broom ball? Have you seen that in other cities?
No.
Broom ball.
In cartoons, I feel like.
So this is at Campus Martius, the ice rink there. So it's like hockey.
Yeah.
But with brooms and no skates. So there's leagues. It's every Monday, Tuesday night. You can catch games from 6 to 10.
Are you on ice?
You're on the ice rink.
In sneakers.
But just shoes and with these special brooms. Yeah. So
I feel like blades would make it better.
Yeah, I did too.
And padding.
I kind of want to check it out. Yeah.
I miss Bob Prober.
I know. Maybe this is like
that's when hockey was.
This is hockey light.
Yeah,
it's
boxing on ice.
Yeah.
Hockey
That sounds
inspired.
fun though. I would go play broom ball because I
Yeah.
can't skate. So that sounds.
See, it levels the playing field.
Yeah,
There
or
you go.
play hockey. So that works out very well for me.
Yeah.
Or sports in general.
Oh, well then maybe no.
Again, 5'5" and white.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Really not.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah, not
I can
blessed.
sympathize as well. I played softball in middle school, and the best thing that ever happened to me was getting stung by a bee, so I couldn't fit my hand into the glove because then I could just sit on the bench.
Oh, that's cool.
Was that
Right.
planned or was that just happened?
It was not planned, but I was glad for it.
Right.
Yeah.
My dad was our
Not
Little League
good.
coach and was a football star in Detroit.
Oh.
So I was very much.
That's rough for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he went to St. Ambrose and held a record, and I grew up in a football family, and my brother was big into football. And
how many brothers and sisters do you have?
One twin brother.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah. They had twins and were like, this is awful, and never had more kids.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. What did they say? Like 2 kids is kind of like 10 kids. And especially if you had them at the same time.
Oh, yeah. We're one and done. My wife and I, one and done.
Now, you and are you identical twins? You're fraternal?
Fraternal. He's taller and has red hair, so
And
I feel
plays
like
football.
I won.
Okay.
Huh.
And played football.
Yes, he did play football.
Yeah.
I played football for a day.
Yeah.
I got tackled, and I was like, I don't care for this.
Yeah.
And I walked home.
I feel you. It's like me going up to bat. I'm like, I can't hit this. I'm going to get stung by a bee and sit down.
Right.
I walked down 8 Mile with my pads on, smoking a Newport.
Look who's cool now.
Pretty awesome. That's a renegade.
Well, I think one thing the 3 of us can agree on is movies. We like movies. So
Yes.
every Saturday in February, you can go to Beacon Park. They have a big heated tent there. I went there over Christmas. It's so cool. It's all lit up and really nice. And they're doing free movies there every Saturday. So popcorn, food, and drinks from Lumen, which is the restaurant there in the park. 2 movies every Saturday, like a family-friendly one at 4 o'clock and a more adult-oriented one, but not an adult film.
I got you. But then real hardcore.
No. So like
Stay late for NC-17.
it's at 6:30 p.m. So
Oh, that would be fun.
and like this Saturday is Crazy Rich Asians. So we're not talking about.
Oh, so not too bad.
Yeah, and they'll have photo booths and activities and stuff. Something to get you out of the house but still be warm.
We got to get the King shown there.
I would love it.
We should submit it.
Yeah,
They should
submit it.
take it now that Amazon's been like, I'm going to distribute this.
There you go.
And it's a piece of Detroit work.
I think, we should definitely. We'll work on that.
When you were doing it, were there certain neighborhoods that you wanted to show off, or?
I wanted to avoid the standard Detroit, I wanted to avoid the Fist, and I wanted to avoid the train station. All that stuff.
Things that everybody should, like the top 5 blight statues. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to show everything else about Detroit, and I wanted to show a little bit of Grosse Pointe where I was from, so I did we did shoot on the lake.
Okay.
Where we had a scene where the kid has a dream because he gets his first car, and he's now he's dressed as a pimp, and the car's filled with strippers, and he's just having this fantasy about his brand new convertible. And for some reason, it was the only time ever that there wasn't a police officer on Lakeshore Drive, because we didn't have permits to do any of this. This was straight guerrilla. I mean, we had
went out and shot.
Yeah, we had a crane on some rich dude's front lawn, and we were like, well, let's just hurry this up so we get stopped. And we had one girl dressed very scantily clad right next to Lou's pet shop, and we got stopped because somebody called the police and thought we were making a pornography in the parking lot.
Oh, boy.
And they were like, "You're not allowed to film." We're like, we're students. We're making a student film." And they were like, "Oh, go ahead."
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, we wanted to avoid everything that people have seen, but bring in what people hadn't. So I showed a little bit of the east side of Detroit, west side of Detroit, then Southfield, Grosse Pointe, Taylor, Hazel Park. Like, we filmed in a little bit of everywhere because I wanted it to feel like a real Detroit story no matter where you were from.
Oh,
Cool.
very cool.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D. Break.
That's it. That's our first show.
That was a good
Thank
time.
you. Thank you for having me.
Dude, you were great.
I hope I didn't go too far. I feel like I might have.
I can see how you landed the role with Anthony there.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah, you're
There
a
you
pro
go.
at this. You're really good at this.
Thank you.
So, well, look, we're going to get out of here, but before we do, we always want to give out shout-outs to some people that
Of course.
So you start, Becky.
Yeah, so Thursday night, I got a chance to go to the Kresge Arts Honors, which you can see on February 15th. It's going to be televised on Detroit Public TV. And it was really cool. So the Kresge Foundation for the past 10 years has given money and named eminent artists. So there's 10 eminent artists, and I'm talking like these are the creme de la creme of artists in Detroit, like Charles McGee, who has the huge sculpture in front of the Charles Wright Museum. People like that. And so they had 10 performances honoring each of these past winners. And it was really inspiring because they didn't just get up and say, a standard, here's what they did and why they're important. They did some interpretation. So it would be either a dance or a band performing that really like spoke to what the essence of this artist was. So it was really neat. And it was at the Jack White Theater at Masonic. And I just think everybody should watch this show because it'll make you very proud of the arts tradition we have in Detroit and the cool stuff that Kresge is doing. Because each time they name an artist, it comes with like a $50,000 prize for them to continue their art. So, I mean, we're talking the former poet laureate of the city, people who have written so many books, Lenny Sinclair, who's taken all these iconic
Photographs.
Pictures, let's say. Sorry. I'm getting so excited I stumble over that. But who took all these iconic photographs of like the MC5 and John Coltrane
That's
and stuff
so
like
cool.
That's awesome.
You kind of forget all these things that happened in Detroit. And most of these people are, into their 80s, 90s kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, even Iggy and the Stooges and stuff. I mean, you look at, this was really the birth of punk, and we don't get a lot of credit for it.
No. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's my shout out. It's fantastic. And you should tune into PBS on the 15th of February.
All right, what about you, Dave? Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I'm going to give a shout out to Jimmy Brennan at Telly's Bar and Grill. It's on Mack Avenue in Vernier in Grosse Pointe Woods. He's my best friend. The food is delicious. He's the nicest guy you'll ever want to meet. Slam dunk. I recommend it. It's delicious. But yeah, my buddy Joe plays there all the time. A guy who plays with Sturgill Simpson is always there, playing bass. Like, it's just a really cool place to hang out. So big shout out to Jimmy at Telly's.
Awesome.
Nice.
I want to give a shout out. We were talking about Second City Detroit. I met one of the alums. We had interviewed him on the podcast over Skype, essentially. That is Mark Evan Jackson, who's on this show. Have you seen the show The Good Place on
I
ABC?
have. It's great.
I love that
Yeah.
show. It's great. And there's a lot of Michigan ties. Kristen Bell is from here. So Mark was performing with Paul F. Tompkins over at the Fillmore.
He's great.
They did two-man improv, and I dabbled in stand-up comedy. I could barely hold a stage for 5 minutes. These guys made it up off the top of their heads and did 90 minutes.
Yeah, they don't plan anything, right? It's
and it was hilarious.
And
that's
Paul's
awesome.
Paul's on a different level of performer because he chose to stay in LA, not do the road thing, be very artistic, and it paid off for him very well.
Yeah. So these guys were great.
And they had their tuxedos on,
and
right?
they had their tuxedos
Formal.
on, and
Yeah.
there were Detroit references because he's not from here, but he spent a lot of years
Connected,
here, and he still
Yeah.
considers this his home. They actually, Mark and his wife have a project that they started called the Detroit Creativity Project, which uses improv basically for kids, for like middle schoolers and high schoolers, not so much who are looking to go into entertainment as a business, but just as like a life coping skills and instilling confidence and that
talking
kind of
to
thing.
people. I mean, anything really.
Thinking off the top of your head.
Absolutely.
It's very beneficial. People don't realize it.
Yeah, it was really cool. So
I'm so glad you got
props
to meet
them.
him. That was great.
Yeah, and super nice guy. So thanks to him, and thanks to you, Dave Landau. I'm glad we got you in here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So once again, what do we got to plug? Where can people listen to you? Where can people see you?
You can go to davelandau.com. If you're on your app, on your phone, just click the thing that says Dave Landau. That'll scroll down to my tour dates if you want to see where I'm performing. Also, you can go to compoundmedia.com or download the Kamiya app. Use code COMPOUND20. You can see me Monday through Thursday, 4 to 6, and every show we've ever done is archived. Other than that, and please watch The King of Detroit on Amazon. If you're a Prime member, please grab that and leave a positive review.
Perfect. And you'll be back with us again tomorrow. By the way, we've got a mobile app as well. Just look up The Debrief in there. And you can get all kinds of bonus material that we don't put in the regular podcast feed. So Sam Rager, stand-up comedian from this area.
She's great.
Just put out her first debut comedy album. We actually have a little snippet of that in the
app.
In the app. It's the
Yep.
only place you can get it. So you can actually hear a little bit of her, and then you can go check her out on Spotify and all the other places that she's at as well.
That's awesome.
So cool. Well, we'll have you back again tomorrow. Thanks, Dave. Until then, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
The Debrief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.